Greetings again. It is me. I'm CJ HOFFSWRITE, and we are going to be having some discussions today. Welcome to Terrors of the Night. This is the YouTube channel for my own tabletop RPG story making game. So, the first 3 videos are done, and I'm very proud of them. They're not bad, but that was 2 weeks ago. So I have a new little batch of videos I'm trying to get done today, another 3, so this is going to be 4 and 5 bunched together, because the next video we're going to have something to talk about. Something that has changed mildly, extremely mildly, but we'll get to that when we need to get to that. So I wanted to clarify some things from the first 3 videos. So this is a bit of a new introduction. You can consider this a new introduction for Terrors in the Night and for myself, CJ HOFFSWRITE. I want to first explain, I've got, again, my little script in front of me. I want to first clarify what I'm wearing here is not a costume. This is what I wear. You can see in the other videos how it can come off as I'm playing a bit with the way I dress, but I can assure you I wear funny hats because I like funny hats. Overalls, I'm very much a old working class. I spent 10 years as a delivery driver, drove all over highways many a time, lost in many a snow, out in the middle of many a nowhere. So I dress the way I dress because it is who I am. So it's not a costume by any means to any degree. This is who I am. This is how I dress. So hopefully that comes off as a little bit more genuine, as you can hopefully see from where I choose to film at. I'm just a little bit more old school. Just a bit. And I want to move on to, as I said, a better introduction to Terrors in the Night. So, why? Why did I begin this? Because I began this project at this point in time in January. I began this project last year in March, when I got a new job where a great deal of my afternoon and a great deal of my time is spent away from home. Like, I'm away from home for many a day at a time, and I spend many an afternoon just doing many a laundry. So I've spent hours and hours and hours just in laundry room thinking, watching videos, doing research on projects. I've always wanted to make something. I don't know, I never have known what until now. I believe this is the thing I've been led to make. So what I was looking for was a game along the lines of Dungeons & Dragons, but something I could take into the woods and play in a worst case scenario. I'm a bit of a survivalist. I apologize. I was raised in a family where, we had a massive food storage. We had emergency backpacks. I was just raised in that kind of family. It was something that's always been on our minds, so, I'm perfectly fine traveling out to the woods and living the cabin life. Trust me, that's the dream. But let's say worst goes to worst, you are out there by yourself for many a time. You're going to want to play games, you're going to want to do something, so what's something you're going to have with you? Playing cards. If you're lucky, dice. If you're even luckier, poker chips. That's something you should have in an emergency backpack and a go bag is entertainment. Because as much as people are obsessed over, the guns and the cooking those squirrels, the getting real freaky out there, the first thing that's going to go is your mind. You're going to go crazy first before, in most cases, before anything else gets to you. And the only way to keep yourself sane is to entertain your mind, play games, keep yourself engaged. So I wanted something like Dungeons and Dragons that you could take out in the woods and play by yourself. And that's where this all began. That's where it all started. So what I did was I combined my love of classic ghost stories, traditional ghost stories, the haunted object or the haunted location. I love classic traditional ghost stories. And I want to ramp it up a little bit, so adding in the RPG elements, because to me, a role-playing game should be a story-driven role-playing game, because that's just in the name. I'm just saying. So one of the goals I had with Terrors in the Night was to use objects that would be found in an emergency backpack. So first playing cards, then dice, then poker chips. So then when I took those cards, just a regular deck of playing cards, I'll show you my very nice deck of cards here in a moment. I wanted to take those cards and figure out what they were missing. Because when I looked into it, I at first thought, oh, I'm late to the game. There's going to be thousands upon millions of role-playing games based on 52 standard deck playing cards. But as I researched it, I found none. I found maybe one, and it was like a 10-year-old video, and it was still a game. It wasn't a role. It was still a game. It wasn't. So my issue with playing cards is that they seem to be stuck in this realm of playing cards. The blackjacks, the pokers, the go fishes. I don't see playing cards being utilized in a close to RPG way. Oh, editing me, you're going to have to edit this out. I gotta go turn the heater off. Got it? And seamless transition. I apologize, it's incredibly cold outside, so I need to at least have some warmth. But moving on, the cards, they just were not ever being played or used in any sort of way that I felt like could tell a story. I feel like a lot of the stories come from people playing the cards, the Old West. Like, that's the most story I can tell is being utilized from playing cards. So, try to figure out, how do I put those pieces together? What are they missing? What are they being used for? What is it missing? What's the chunk? Sure enough, with a little YouTube search, I came up with Team APS. They are wonderful. They're a great group of gentlemen who reintroduced me back into, as I described in the prior videos, reintroduced me again to Yu-Gi-Oh! And it all clicked again when I got another deck of Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards. So, I believe I touched on this prior, in a prior video, one of the prior three. But this is what they were missing. The feeling of having your own unique set of cards. Because even though this deck is completely unviable, there's no way this could ever stand even a remote chance against what Yu-Gi-Oh! Is now. Because there's this is 42 cards. That's it. There is no extra deck. There is no side deck. 42 cards because that's, I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh back in like 2004, 2005, in that range. That's whenever Relinquished, I brought that before. Whenever Relinquished came out, that was like the first new pack of cards I ever got. That was like the new Yu-Gi-Oh pack, Relinquished, and within like the first two, I got it like immediately. I got Relinquished, but I never got the Ritual card. So when I was a kid, I had a stack of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. But when I was an adult, with this little stack here, it feels like I could, take on the world. Because these are my cards. No one else has a Yu-Gi-Oh deck like mine. This is special to me. So I wanted to replicate that feeling with a standard 52 deck of cards. And it struck me. I have a very special deck of cards that I had no intention of ever being special. So I joined the military, just the National Guard, in 2012. And before I went to basic training, I walked down to like one of those like small drugstores. The smaller drugstores, not the big Walmart, but the smaller drugstores. And I went and bought like 2 or 3. It was several decks of cards, notebooks, pens. I just went and bought a whole bunch of stuff I thought I was going to need for basic training. Sure enough, all of basic training, you're not allowed to have cards, so I never used them. All of AIT with the MOS I chose, my advanced training was basically just back to red phase all the way through. So all my AIT, I never used the cards. So then I got to my unit, and when you're in the guard, there's these points of time where you're gone for a while, 2 weeks at a time, and a whole bunch of my unit, they played this game called Spades. They love playing Spades. So I just so happened to be the only private 2 specialist in this 6-year time. I believe it was 2 years of training and then 6 years with the unit. In this 6-year span of time, I was the only person who had this, I had this deck of cards in my backpack. Because when I was at basic training, I bought this really, really nice backpack. And it had this perfect little elastic spot for the cards. So I left them in there, and I never played with these cards. These would just, I would get to up into the fort where we'd be there for 2 weeks, and usually one of the sergeants or one of the, specialists who I was good buddies with would just come up and say, "Yo, you got the cards?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I got the cards. Here, give me a minute. Here you go. Whoosh. Bring them back." Okay. And I wouldn't see those cards for like 2 weeks. But they would always come back to me. I would always get them back. And years down the line, I'm working on this game. I'm using the playing cards. I'm trying to figure it out. And I'm learning the flourishes. And I come across Chris Ramsey. So he is a YouTuber who is a magician and an illusionist. And he does puzzles. He does all that stuff. He does a lot of stuff. So Chris Ramsey holds up this deck of cards. And he says, "This is a very special deck of cards. I got it in this glass bottle." I'm like, "Huh, those look really familiar." So I went to my old army stuff and I dug them out. So this is a pair of Theory 11 Monarchs. And the Theory 11 Monarchs, from what I know, were eventually used in a movie, Now You See Me. So this is, as far as I can tell, I think the Monarchs were released in like 2010 to 2011. So a year after these were released, this is that deck of cards. And they are in still beautiful, stunning condition. Because like I said, I would hand these out to my buddies, but I would always get them back. They took care of these cards, even though they weren't theirs. Trust me, I had more of my actual army shit stolen in the army before anyone would steal this deck of cards. Like, if it was army stuff, it's free game. They're gonna steal it from you. Don't trust anyone. They're all gonna steal from you. I might have even like jacked something at some point in time. I don't even know. But if it's like a personal thing, it would never go missing. At least that's how it was with my unit. So I have this deck of monarchs, and I'm like, oh, that's the feeling I want to create. Like, there it is. Here is a 52 deck of cards that I have now feel a special attachment to. And that's what I want to create with this game. I want someone to say, hey, I'm going to play this new RPG. It's going to be kind of fun. I'm going to try just a deck of cards. So they go out and they find this, just maybe they go and buy another pair of Theory 11s. Like, these are provisions. I love these provisions. These are really cool. They go and buy that deck of cards and they play the game, and I would want them to have the feeling of, these cards are now mine. These cards have told a story. I've gone on adventures with these cards. That's what I want to capture with this game. So that's all the backstory. That's how this came into fruition. And moving on from there, for just a few more minutes, I would like to relinquish, too easy, some other of my prior ideas. So, like I mentioned, I've been working on things ever since I was a kid, of trying to make something. I did art. I wasn't good at art. I was good enough to excel at art, but I wasn't good enough to do anything with it. So I kept my creativity to notes. Anytime anything came down or crossed my mind, I wrote it down. And now on my phone, I have this huge list of notes, huge list. So this will lead into the next video where we're going to have a serious discussion, a serious talk. But I have all these ideas, these tiny trinkets, like these tiny little ideas, that at the end of my videos, at the very end, like, there's going to be this section of, like, the video's over. The very end, I'm going to have this little segment of my videos where I'm going to give out at random times. It's not going to be a regular thing. I'm going to just give out my ideas. Where this last little bit of video, if you stick out to that last little end, you're going to get some sort of idea that I've come up with. That is not a ploy for people to watch the end. I'd rather if that's something you'd want, rather you just scroll to the end and see if it's there or not. But I just believe in sharing ideas. I don't believe, if I've got something that I want to work on, then cool, I'm going to work on that. But all of these things that are older, that are prior, maybe they aren't for me. And I don't want them to be for me. I want them to be for you. So, as an example of that, here in this video, I'm not going to do it at the end. I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to give you my last 2 ideas I worked on before Terrors in the Night. So the one immediately prior to this was Ekash. EK-ASH. Ekash. So I've tried for months to develop my own D&D Dungeons & Dragons campaign. So, in this campaign, I had the concept of, there's this new material, and this new material is kind of like clay. This material is used around as plates and pottery for a while, but at some point in time, a spellcaster uses fireball on it, and he realizes that this material retains the heat. So he used fireball again, and it just builds until this material becomes white hot. And so what he does is he takes these plates and he then starts handing them out to, like, training places, as a way to make your fireball stronger or more hot or whatever. So what would you do with these plates, these red hot burning plates that seem to just hold that heat for many, 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 many times longer than they should? Well, I had this idea of you would put those plates in a rack. That rack would be in the center of a big boat, and with the pull of a lever, that rack would go down, create steam, and thus propel the boat. So I kind of had this whole concept of Dungeons and Dragons where this whole new mode of transportation is developed, and it's like you can go create like motorboats, super fast but logical to the world of Dungeons and Dragons motorboats. So, if someone can get that idea out to the dungeon dudes, they're free to take that and do that with whatever they wish, or, whoever, if you know anyone who's a big fan of Dungeons and Dragons, give them that concept and see what they want to do with it, because I think that's a really good idea. It's a really good idea, but Dungeons and Dragons, you do your thing. Let me do my thing over here with the cards. Hey! And then, immediately before that, this is actually one I was really proud of. So, I am very much an English major kind of person. I love writing. I love doing all the little stuff and picking apart stories. So, I came up with a game called Throw Stories. So, with Throw Stories, what I have made is a super list of genres and subgenres. So just going to give you, that's the subgenre. I'm going to give you an example just how many are on there. So with Throw Stories, I have several different, the major genres: fiction, action, adventure. Oh no! Sorry, that was unprofessional. Crime and mystery, fantasy, horror, romance, sci-fi, and more sci-fi. So within these genres, there's a numbered list: 1 to 15, 1 to 8, 1 to 4, 1 to 12, 1 to 5. So let's say I take the 20-sided die and I go to fiction, and I roll a 12. So a 12 is... Holy crap, no wonder people... I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. It's like, the camera's over here. That's going to be pretty bag-ass words. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to put stuff up to the camera anymore. It's not necessary. So 12 is a thriller. So a thriller has a little check mark next to it. With that little check mark, I go to the subgenre section. And there is comedy, coming of age, folklore. Within there's subgenres within the subgenre. So there is insane. So we'll take this one here. For a thriller, there's also a conspiracy, financial, and political. So that's 3 options: a a conspiracy thriller, a financial thriller, and a political thriller. So I roll the D4 for one of those 3 options, and there I would have we'll say I did a 3, a political thriller. So there you have a genre and you have your subgenre. And then you take the D100, the two other little dimety ones, and you roll both of those for a potential out of 100 of the themes. So let's say I rolled a 27. So I have numbers on here. 27 is isolation. So a political thriller with a theme of isolation. That's really not bad. That's really not bad. So that's Throw Stories. So if you want to do a throw story, you go first find the major genre and you write down all the ones you can find. In fiction, action, adventure, horror, sci-fi. That's a major genre. And then you go into the subgenres. For example, in fiction, there's comedy, coming of age, and folklore. And within folklore, there's 8 options of a subgenre alone: animal tale, a fable, ghost lore, a legend, a myth, a parable, a personal narrative, and an urban legend. So if you can take this game with these dice and just break it down and roll yourself a fun story. Right. A little bit of a lean there, but it's okay. We're back and we're about to move on. So I'll catch you all later. I'm moving immediately into the next one, so I might make a supercut of episode 4 and 5, but we're moving right over. See you later. If you want to stay. Editing me. Take care of what we need to take care of in the middle, alright? Well done. Have a good night, and see you later.